right. So first episode, I got my man Mike Wagner with me. Mike's going to be sitting.
We could be known as.
Go ahead.
I said we just know me as Manager Mike.
There we go.
That's pretty easy.
We got Manager Mike.
Yeah, Manager Mike.
So Mike's going to sit in whenever we have an athlete. So he'll help me with that. And then of course we got the butcher. Brett
It reminds me of like
Wilkins.
that male stripper movie.
Magic Mike.
That's close enough.
I can see where you're going with this. All right.
And then of course Ivana. So thank you guys for coming. Honestly, we've been excited for it. We've been prepping for it for a couple months, getting this room ready. So you guys, appreciate you being our very first guest.
Oh yeah, so it's good to be here. So, Kansas City Field. This is the new location here in Olympia, Kansas. So first time for me. I've been to the Liberty location. I still need to go down to the downtown location, but I just recently saw a lot of video of the setup there, and it looks like you said you've done a really good job of setting these up. So
Thanks.
I know she was too. We've been talking about. She was very impressed with this location here today. Just the exercise selection or the equipment selection. I mean. And just the setup. It's beautiful here. It's very welcoming. And then you have all the accessories you need, especially with, stemming from, the fitness posing room to all the equipment, all the way to just the childcare. And that's a huge thing. It's an open environment, and we're huge on that as like, because we've been to all the good gyms. We've been to all the best gyms in the nation, right? The Bev's gyms, the Gold's gym, our personal favorite is probably Armbrust Pro Gym, but you got to create that atmosphere.
Sure. That's where we met. That's where I met you. Yeah.
You got to create that atmosphere because you can just throw a lot of money at a gym and buy the best equipment, buy the best, building, buy the best accessories. Mm-hmm. But if there isn't a core there, if there isn't some value and there's some meaning, and the people that are like feeding off of each other, then it's not going to be successful. And so, that's what you've done a really good job of it here and getting and the part of that's just having the right people on staff, to create that environment. But, me, telling you more so maybe moving forward is you just got to keep that energy and in day to day it's new and fresh right now, but you got to approach that every day moving forward. And the thing is, if if you're loving what you're doing, it's reflective. And then when people walk in, they see the smile on the front desk worker's face, they see the the interactive, hey Charles, how you doing? That's huge, right? So keep doing what you're doing right here and creating a good atmosphere that people want to come, because a gym is more than just where you train and put on muscle or whatever. It's a social event for a lot of people, right? Sure. It's their therapy session. It's their social session for the day. So you need to create that, and then something that includes everyone from all ends. So you've done a good job of having, you have your bodybuilders, you have your power lifters, you have your single moms, and everything in between. So
right on.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
No, I appreciate it. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, right? Anybody can, not anybody, but a lot of people can get a big loan and buy a lot of nice stuff.
And we've seen it.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's not what drives culture. It's the staff, it's the members, it's the staff-member relationship. So that's what these guys hear me talk about all the time, community. And that's what we're really pushing hard to, the member experience is number one. And so, that's not everybody's business model, but that's what we're trying to do. And I'm glad you guys see that, and I appreciate it.
And cleanliness is huge in gyms.
It is. Whether people are
clean.
aware of it or not, you subconsciously feel more relaxed in a clean environment. And you mentioned like the social aspect of it, and there's some guys that are going to be watching this podcast be like, I'm hardcore, I don't need to be social in the gym. Yeah, I get it. No, I don't think too many people are more hardcore than you are, and you have that time, but then you can be social outside of that. Like, we're not here to play around, but at the same time, that's an hour of our day, and then 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after, we can interact with people. Yeah. So, I appreciate you guys being here. You guys are considering at some point Kansas City might be a home. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I guess we're going to break that news. Or no, I'm just kidding. No, he's right. And something
it's on the radar.
We want to talk about. It's like we're looking ahead. I mean, I've been pretty open about it, but we've been down in Florida now for about 16 months. And we went down there and bought a house down there, and was planning on living. Obviously that was going to be our future. But literally, what was it? Probably 2 months after we moved down there, we found out she was, about 4 months, but we found out she was pregnant, and so when you bring another addition into the family, that kind of changes everything, right? Having a child, because you want the family to be involved too. So all of our family lives up in the Des Moines metro area, so that's 3 hours, right? 3 hours north of here. And so we've been talking about discussing like, hey, we want we want to be closer to family just for the, the easiness of having them be able to be around their granddaughter growing up, even us being more active with them, because that flight down to South Florida is tough. We're an hour and 45 minutes away from the closest airport, and it's just, it's been taxing, and it's just inconvenient, So it's like, hey, we got to make that next step. We knew Florida wasn't going to be a permanent stomping grounds. That's just more, it was bodybuilding business, and and that it's good for that for down there. But now we need to start looking, what's next, especially with the family atmosphere. And so, what's close to Des Moines? We don't want to technically go back to Iowa, but we want to go to another, a bigger city that's close in the Midwest that has these opportunities, only these nice gyms, these gym communities, these competitors, the things I focus on. We focus on like, coaching clients for bodybuilding, things like that. In Kansas City, I've always enjoyed it down here. And we came down a little early yesterday, came down a day early, scoped out the entire area, mainly over on the southeast side of Kansas City, and we really liked what we saw. So we'll just kind of keep in touch and figure out what we're going to do moving forward. But we'd really like to set a base here if we could. That's that.
Yeah, Kansas it's a good time to be choosing Kansas City.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good things going on and a lot of things coming. Our sports teams are excellent, but I've been in Kansas City since 2019. And it's just gotten better and better. I love it here. I'm not going to be here forever because, my goal is to go across the nation with multiple gyms, teaming up with the right people, you guys potentially. And so I'll always have, this will probably be a home for me, but not the only place. You know what I mean? But Kansas City's awesome. It really is. It's got a good gym culture too. Of course, I'm biased to our gyms, but there's some other good gyms in town as well. And I think it's improving over time for sure, but.
What do you think of Kansas City, Ivana?
I was going to say he kind of sounds like a Swiftie. No, I think it's a great place, and you still have that big city feel to it because, especially for Brett and I mean, we've lived in 2 major cities now. So I definitely personally, even though I grew up in a smaller city in Des Moines, I definitely need a kind of that bigger city nearby. And I think that also bigger cities give you more opportunities. Mm-hmm. And now when you're a parent, you think about, hey, I'm not just thinking solely about myself anymore, but I'm also thinking about my child's future. So, you want to find a good place. And I think, last night when we were driving around, I'm like, okay, I could definitely see my kid going to some of these schools and growing here and, having a future here. So, but I like it, and I like the people because, again, it's a lot like Iowa, but it's not Iowa, and I would definitely never move back to Iowa. Anybody from Iowa listening to this, I love you guys, but I'm good. But it's the same kind of people, but just a bigger city with more opportunities.
Sure.
So, and not everyone knows each other. I still feel like Des Moines is a bit like that. I don't feel like that the way here, that it's like that,
Yeah, so the first foundation's in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. A lot of the guys here that are sitting in this room, there's a staff there, and that's the OG. And I love Manhattan, and it served me well, but it's just so much easier to do business in Kansas City. It's just more, the demographics just larger. And Kansas City's treated us really well so far. So I think you guys would be welcomed warmly here in Kansas City. I think you'd thrive. So I'm glad it's an option for you. But let's get into stuff that people are going to really want to talk about with Brett Wilkin right now. Yeah. Let's switch gears to that just a little bit. Yeah. Let's talk about the Olympia and your prep. Of course, you kind of laid it out there what went down, but in reflecting on it now, what's your perspective on it? What exactly when did you decide like, hey, I'm just not going to be able to pull out of this?
Yeah. So if you're unaware, if you're just tuning in for the first time, so I was qualified for the 2023 Olympia that just took place in Orlando last month. I qualified actually the year before by winning the Spain show in November, and so I had a full year to get ready for the 2023 Mr. Olympia, which was the goal, which was the plan, which was awesome. I had all that off-season time, and then that's when we, had our child and enjoyed those moments, and then, it was time to start prep and get ready for the Olympia, so the first one. It was just one of those things, and that's what happens in bodybuilding. We were talking about this last night. Like, there's all these things that, can go wrong with bodybuilding, especially with the processes that go into it, especially with food, the intense training, the extreme dieting, everything. And so this was the first time, I've done 8 or 9 shows now, but which isn't a lot for where I'm at. But this is the first time I've really had some really bad hiccups, and then issues internally that actually made me in the end have to withdraw from the Olympia. So. What those were, and then like I said, we covered this, and then now I can give you an update on it. It was just really bad gut relation. So what I ended up finding out afterwards is, that my gut lining, the microbiomes, the gut mucosis it's called, was actually all gone. So I wasn't even really like the things that absorbing what's breaking down the food wasn't even there. So what was happening with me was, this was specifically when Ivana was gone, because she actually went back to Iowa for a month for like the first 4 weeks of prep, or right in there in that time frame, was when I started noticing things involving like every time I would eat, not every time, I mean like, a few times a day when I would eat, I would actually like throw the food right back up. And it was just all of a sudden I was like, I had to go to the toilet, and then I would just puke it up. And then also it was coming out the back end, not good either. So I just knew, I knew some things were off, but us being bodybuilders, I mean, and I'm not gonna sit here and say like, poor me or anything, because literally every prep, and for most people, there's some kind of issues, right? It's honestly about who can overcome the issues a lot of the times. But and so that's all I treat as like, okay, so this is weird, but I'm just gonna overcome it. And so what I started doing, I was replacing meals. Like I would eat that meal again, 2 hours later, and then go train or something. But it was getting to a point where like, then I was eating like 9 or 10 meals a day, because I was replacing 2 or 3, right? And then I'd be up late, trying to finish those in. And then, and then I just knew I wasn't absorbing things correctly, because you can feel that, when you've been doing this long enough and you're training, your response, your pump, your strength, and I wasn't seeing that. So initially I knew something was off, especially with the training and the response. The crazy thing is I was still looking good, and I was progressing that way. Like I was leaning out like process, but I knew I was functioning at about like 80%. And so then like I said, I just held off, and then it was like 4 or 5 weeks that I was dealing with that. And so with that, then it was turning into a mental game, right? So then you're just like, you're scared to eat every meal because you knew it was coming, right? And so like my mental health was the worst it's ever been. And like, that's something I've never really dealt with. I've always been extremely like, strong mentally, which is different than what we were dealing with here. But like, I was getting anxious, I was getting anxiety, I was getting stressed out. My cortisol was reacting. We talked about my estrogen starting getting very, very high, which I saw in blood work. And then then after doing some blood work, I was like, oh, it's just estrogen related. And it's also, my adrenals were very far off. So all those readings that tell your adrenals, which is kind of like your response to things, your mood, those were absolutely fried. And that's just from, what I found out is just from my stomach. Your gut controls your brain in a lot of ways. Your gut health, if your gut is not in a good spot, nothing else is going to be in a good spot. So I was seeing those reactions with my mental state from the adrenals, just in a terrible mood all the time, depressed, super anxious, and then the training wasn't going as good. So it progressed to a point where the breaking point, I've said it a few times, was, I was going to train legs. I ate and I was driving to train legs, and I was in my truck. And I ended up projectile vomiting in my truck while driving. Like I couldn't even pull. I was trying to pull over, and it just went all over my windshield. And I turned around, I went home, I pulled in the driveway, and that's when Ivana was back home. And then she's like, "Why are you back?" And then she looked, and the car was full of puke. It might have been full.
Who do you guys think cleaned that up?
She jumped in there with the towel, right away.
There you go. That's a good woman there.
And it was coming out both ends and uncontrollably. And so I knew I needed to stop and figure out what was wrong, because then I was like, this isn't gonna be a good environment for the home as well. Having a newborn, and I'm going through these issues, not figuring out, getting frustrated. So it was just a good time to take a step back, make sure my health was in check. Because at that time I was worried about, hey, is my liver, something wrong with my liver? Because those are sometimes when liver toxicity can cause that really bad. So I was getting really worried. And so that's when I put a little pause on the prep. I backed off the food, and then I did all these tests over, for weeks after that, figuring it out. So that's when I ended up finding it from a GI map. It was more so just all my gut readings were really, really bad. And then now, with the update now, I've been doing a very extreme gut protocol for the last 8 weeks. So just a bunch of different probiotics, a lot of herbal supplements. I'm doing 2 GI health drinks a day that are just covered, like aloe vera gel, GI Plus from Revive, lemon juice. And I'll make a whole video about this if you want to follow along with it. I'll show you exactly what it is. But it's worked very, very well. So I really feel really, really good now. I have about 2 to 4 more weeks, and I should be cleared to go all out.
Right on.
And then also with that, I decided to kind of we back down the food. So obviously, I'm someone that in the off seasons, I'm eating 6,000 calories every single day. And that's just to stay big because right naturally I should be probably a 185-pound man,
Same.
But I've been able to pack on all this tissue, but I have to feed it.
Right.
So people don't get is even on preps, when I'm getting ready for the Olympia or just any show, I'm still eating 4,000 calories, you know what I mean? But all of clean food, but 4,000 calories is 2,000 less than 6,000. So I'm actually in a deficit of what I'm used to, of what my metabolism is able to produce. So I have to eat a lot of food to fuel the muscles. And so that's why what happened is I spent this last 8 years going prep, off-season, 6,000, 4,000, 6,000, 4,000. I never took a step back and was like, hey, I'm just not going to eat for 2 months. I might fast a little bit. I might give my gut a break. And now looking back, I was like, because I was always, I'm chasing that, that top 10 in the world. I've always been chasing that. And it's like, I can't take a break. I got to get right back into it. And, now I can consciously say that was, not the right way to do it, but that's what we do as bodybuilders, right? We're always chasing that. Right. Yeah, we're chasing that next competition. We're chasing that next placing. So I was never giving my gut, my digestive tract a break. And then finally, I think just, how I describe it is like, that glass of water right there, pour water in it, it fills up. And what happens when it gets to the top? It starts spilling over the sides, right? So that's kind of how I spent the last 8 years eating like this. And it filled all the way up, and it had nowhere else to go. But then issues started coming on. So now I finally just took a step back these last 2 months. I've dropped probably 30 pounds right now. I'm like 245 right now, 243. Usually I'm like 275, and I'm just gonna stay here until right after Christmas, and then I'll be cleared, and then I'll be able to go again. So, and I think as we said, it should be a crazy response because it's the first time I've really gave myself a little break before really going hard again. So.
Yeah. Well, and then sometimes you can come back better. You know what I mean? Yeah. So do you think that has to do with body type? Do you think it has to do with orals that ate up your gut lining? Because were you experiencing this off season, or is it strictly contest prep?
Yeah, that was just strictly a contest prep. So
right.
So yeah, towards the end. So orals are a little part of it. Definitely what we have to do. But I've navigated around that in the past. Like I told you, with like other preps and stuff, and like usually that was just heartburn related stuff like this. I've never had like puking things like this.
Sure.
So I think it was solely just my gut and like is my body rejecting, food after all this time. And then that's what led to all of it.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we're on completely different levels, but I'm of the same metabolism, same body type. Like, it's hard for me to eat all that food. And I think you got big guys like Michael over here that may be a little more apt to handle it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's some guys, I swear, they have like an iron stomach. They can put anything in there and they're good. For me, it's like when I go even off season, I can push food hard for about a month, and then my body's like, that's about enough of that.
Yeah.
So it's an uphill battle. Granted, you can get shredded with just thinking about cardio, right?
Yeah. So, so the good thing, it has its ups and downs. Like people are like, well, I'd love to be you. It's like, okay, it's good for preps because I don't have to do 2 hours of cardio. You know what I mean? Like, but also I train so hard that that works as cardio. So I just do like 20 to 30 minutes of, intense cardio in the morning is enough to get shredded. But like I said, the only time I'm ever actually comfortable is during a prep because food's lower and it's still 3,000 to 4,000 calories, but that's lower than what I'm used to. And I feel good. I'm like, okay, I'm not always just feeling overly full or stuffed or anything like that.
I love being on prep.
I love being on prep. Yeah. So that was another thing. I knew something was off because, I'm getting prepped for Olympia and I wasn't enjoying it. You know what I mean? Like this meant to I knew something was. It was like my mind was telling me something was really wrong, but I couldn't figure it out. So it was just a constant battle day to day.
Yeah.
Do you think because you were in that calorie deficit, is that why some of it happened as opposed to happen in the off season, or do you think it started in the off season and then just?
No, I think it was just timing.
Just
timing.
I
really do. I wish it would have happened in the off season, right? Because then I could have addressed it then and took a little break or done whatever. I think it was just purely because when it was happening, we had barely made any changes yet. You know what I mean? So it was starting at the beginning of the prep, and I was still eating 5,000 calories, right? It wasn't anything really than change on the amounts. It was just purely timing, I believe that. Yeah, definitely.
Well, you had also done the Arnold, right? And then you went and did is that right? Same year, Arnold. And then you went and did another show. So, yeah, I think definitely it was just timing. Yeah.
Right on. And then you still ended up going to the Olympia. Did you work like the Raw booth? Or
Yeah,
what?
yeah. So the Olympia was only 2 hours north of us, so where we live now. So we were able to drive up there and enjoy it. Worked a few of the booths and stuff like that, but mainly we took our baby girl and she got her first Olympia experience.
Very nice.
The family still came down, which was awesome, and enjoyed the theme parks and stuff. So it was just a fun little weekend, and then kind of transitioned into coming up here. We've now been up here in the Midwest for the last 2 weeks. We were part of the Midwest show there in Des Moines, a competition show that turned out really good. So I'm gonna continue to be involved in these Midwest shows. So if you're doing any of the IFBB, NBC, what's it
So is the
Midwest.
Jack to Tone shows.
So any of those, like I will be at the St. Louis Pro next year.
Nice. I've been. It's a
And then-
good show.
And then any other, he pretty much has me on all of his lineups now. So I'm kind of getting involved with him and being part of these Midwest shows to try to blow them up, because the Des Moines one was, we had over 300 entries, it was the second biggest Midwest show behind St. Louis, which is big for Des Moines, because there was when we were coming up 10 years ago, there was no bodybuilding scene. That's why we moved out of Des Moines, is because we moved to Denver, because there wasn't much of a bodybuilding scene in Des Moines. And then we went from Denver, now we're down in Florida. But it's really picking up there with the shows and stuff. And so hopefully we can continue to do that all over the Midwest.
Right on. And I prefer Jack to Tone shows as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and unfortunately for me, I only done one or two of his, and I was always doing Jed Nichols shows. But
Yeah.
what I like about Jack's shows is he generally has national level judges come in.
Right.
And so then if you go junior nationals, you'll probably see at least a handful of them. You go to nationals, you'll see most of them again, right?
Yeah.
Whereas these other shows, it's like, who are my friends? Who's a competitor? And half the time those guys have clients in the show. I've had that happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, whatever. But I'm pretty sure that violates NPC rules.
It does, yeah, and just professionalism in general.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's cool. I'm glad you're aligned with him. I think he has good shows, and they
Yeah.
offer quite a bit around here. Like a lot
Yeah.
of these guys compete with his
Yeah,
shows.
they take care of their athletes.
Yeah, both Brett and I actually started with Jack shows.
Is that right?
We both literally won the same show and then moved on from there. And then I won the Omaha Pro, and then I won the St. Louis Pro. That was my first qualification for the Olympia. So it's been some time, but yeah,
And you're a 5-time Olympian, right?
Yep.
In what category?
in figure.
Nice.
Yeah, so we really enjoyed a lot of Jack's shows. So we look forward to going back to the St. Louis Pro. But I do really like what he's doing in the Midwest. And, the shows are continuing to grow, and he's really got it figured out. So I think with having a show, you've got to figure it out. You've got to put all the same with owning a gym and growing these gyms, right? You've got to have all the right people, and that takes time. And, I mean, it's been how many years? 10 years since, 12 years since, I was an amateur, and he didn't have it figured out now, but now he certainly does. And you want to set these young athletes up for the national stage and success, and that's how you do it, is making sure that you're giving them everything for the national stage and for the pro level stage.
The show structure matters too. Like I can remember Muscle Mayhem getting on stage at like midnight, and at that point you're like, one, you're out of food. Two, you like you're just over it. You know what I mean?
Or your family wants to leave, they're just
Yeah, they're
acting
not having.
they're
Of course,
supportive, and
they put the bodybuilders last,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing I like about a national level show, and I like about Jack shows because they're generally run like clockwork.
Yep.
Because you have a hour late athlete meeting, and everybody's thrown off. People are trying to get their tans, and then you start the show on time, and everybody's like, "What?" It had to happen to me. I got DQ'd because of it. Of course, they let me do the whole show and do the night show because I was the winner, no doubt. I got DQ'd at the last, but I had already qualified. That's when I went to nationals. So, but yeah, that's good shows. You're going to be guest posing at some of his shows in the future too?
Yeah. So that'll probably be on, honestly, most of them next year. So
Okay.
once we get everything going and stuff. So I'll start getting ready for the entire year, probably right here after Christmas. So right January,
Nice.
Maybe probably before, whenever we get back. I'm not sure when we're flying back. And then I'm looking to, because I'll need to qualify, obviously, again for the Olympia, and that's the goal always. And so we're kind of thinking probably July, August time frame for a competition. And then just sprinkling in those guest appearances and stuff all the way throughout.
Nice. Do you like guest posing? Is it fun or no?
It's fine, like especially I enjoy doing Jack shows because it's more more Midwest people, you know what I mean? So I did one that was like Arkansas, this not too long ago, 3-4 months ago. I feel like these like Midwest just appreciates it more when you have an IPB pro come out and guest post and they can see it live, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you're in these other places, you know, like Florida, you know, say California or New York and stuff, like they're used to it, so it's like it's not a big deal, right? So it's like it's cool that it still has that guest posting feel, because remember, like in the 90s and early 2000s, like guest posting was huge, right? And then they didn't, the issue is probably just social media, that you can just see everybody online. There is like, okay, only time I'm going to see Dorian Yates or whatever was you have to go to the show,
or
right?
muscular development or something like that,
or you had to wait for the magazine for 3 months to come out and stuff. So it's like it had so much more power back then, which is you don't get anymore. But it's cool that there's still a very supportive group here, especially in the Midwest, that you can take advantage of and be part of.
Nice. Yeah, I heard last week that muscular development
they're done. It's crazy.
It's too bad, man. That was like the magazine for me. It is what it is. It evolved. I mean, times
but it's
change,
like being a
right?
competitor. Like luckily I got in there. I've had 2 write-ups in there with spreads, but I wanted one of my goals was to be on the cover. Like someday be on the cover of Muscular Development. And now I can't because just the age of technology we're in, I guess. But yeah, that one was rough. It was like at least have one left. You know what I mean? Like keep them at the airports, because that's the only place you can find them anyway. Is probably at an airport stand, but still like. Yeah, but so.
Yeah, Michael and I talk about that sometimes. Like, what was the first one you ever looked at? Because I think every bodybuilder looks at their Muscular Development magazine or one of the magazines, there are other ones, Flex or something like that, and that's when the moment they're like, I want to do that. Yeah. I want to look like that.
Yeah. And then you would go and copy the exact workout that they listed in there, thinking you were going to just look like them all of a sudden. And half the time it wasn't even their workout. Right. Like Ronnie wasn't doing this. Like Ronnie was squatting and leg pressing. That's it.
Yeah. So switching back to the Olympia, your coach, Matt Jansen.
Yes.
Right. So Camp Jansen, it's kind of a tough year for them in Olympia, right?
Yeah, tough year. He had, Ian retired. And then I had to drop out because my issues had another female bodybuilder drop out. And then the last week was Nick Walker, who had, some issues. And then he had to drop out as well. And then Sean got dethroned by Keon.
Mm-hmm.
And then Charles Griffin had a good Olympia. He got top 10, or he's 10th, I think. So, had one competitor, but it was a tough year for him. So that's actually, I was talking to him on Thanksgiving. I was like, all right, because he texted me for whatever, Happy Thanksgiving. I was like, all right, well, next year we're going to be talking about a much better competition season for everybody, and he will. Matt just reloads. He's a extremely good coach, extremely good at multitasking. I think that's why he's so good. You know what I mean? Like he can handle. Can you imagine having 8 guys in the Olympia or something like that? Like,
well, in addition to that, I was going to ask you too. Is he the sole owner or part owner of Revive?
Part owner.
Okay.
No, so he's a part owner of Get Raw Nutrition. So it's him,
Gotcha.
Chris Bumstead, and Dominic.
Okay. See, I don't think a lot of people know that dynamic.
Yeah.
At least I didn't
Yeah.
until we started talking. But do you think that pulls him too hard in that direction? Do you think that was initially just an upfront commitment, or do you think it doesn't do anything but benefit you as an athlete?
That's a great question, because I always worried about that. I'm like, is he putting too much on his plate? But he's never shown me examples of not being, even when so a good example is when I was over in Europe, I was competing in Romania and Spain, and 6 hours ahead. So like, when I was competing, it was 3 a.m, but like, and then he never, he always responded, those things. So it's like, he's able to manage it all and still be a good dad and everything like that. So it's been impressive to see him do that. Obviously some things get, swept through the cracks and stuff, because I'll even say, like, and that's why he has a team now, he has some guys that coach underneath him.
Okay.
Like he had to transition that, because I was like, you have all these people reaching out to get coached by you, but like, how much attention are you going to show Joe Schmo that's its first competition coming up? You know what I mean? Like, You have 8 Olympians over on this side that are getting ready for a show, and then you have Joe getting ready for his local competition in Idaho, right? Like, it's just natural. You can't give all your time. So I think that's when he figured out, hey, I'm gonna get some coaches underneath me that can, I can give, somebody, when I get these inquiries, I can point to, hey, I've now coached up Cameron Cheek. He's underneath me. You can work with him, and he'll be just as good as I am, because he knows everything I do, right? So he's done a good job really building, being able to adapt to the times and he never appears too stressed out. So somehow he manages it.
Nice. Yeah, I always wonder, because I run businesses as well, and I know how much, especially when you start something.
Yeah.
like that first 6 months to a year can just take over your life.
Yeah.
And some people are better at handling it than others. Some people are better, can at least not show it. You know what I mean? But no matter who it is, it still takes up bandwidth.
Yeah. And I think with the whole get raw nutrition thing, there's a lot of hands on there too. You know what I mean? So
Right.
obviously he's part of the decisions and stuff, but like hands on stuff, there's a lot of staff and especially, and so I don't know how much more he has to truly like, he makes the executive decisions, but it's not like he has to be there daily or anything like that. I think the coaching is still kind of the focus for him.
Yeah, I mean, our guys love it. We carry it at all our locations, not necessarily the Revive stuff, but all the CBUM, all the raw stuff, your butcher stuff.
Yeah.
So those sauces, is that also part of raw? Or what's that part? Because
that's part of the company called Flavor Gang.
Right.
It's owned by Ross Flanagan.
Yeah.
So I just partnered up with him on that sauce idea and stuff like that. So he has a few other ones. I think Nick Walker had one, the mutant sauce, and then my sauce. And is there any more? I mean, there's a lot of sauce. There's like 10 different sauces, but the only one that actually have athletes in it is just me and his. But that was a lot of fun. You know what I mean?
It's good too.
We
like the Yum Yum sauce a lot.
Yeah, Yum Yum's good. We had to do a lot of testing to figure out the exact, because at first I was like, he's like, we want to do a steak sauce, and he brought me this idea of doing like a chimichurri sauce. That's kind of what it is. I'm like, what? And like, it's green, like what? And then like, we started messing with it, trying different, and I was like, wow, this is really, really good. And it goes really good with, either beef or, any red meat like that.
Yeah, my Manhattan boys are the ones that went nuts with it. And then I was like, oh, whatever, we can try it. I try and give them the ability to pursue things without, micromanage them too much.
Right.
And it does really well there.
Good.
Awesome. We're carrying it here in Olathe now too. I'm not sure if we have it at the other locations, but it's really well received, especially by the competitors.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a very low impact on your macros, right?
Yeah, yeah. So low calorie, condiment sauce, but this one's just specific, and the whole line is. So if you're a competitor out there, if you want to look at sauce, look at the Flavor Gang sauces. They're really, really good. They have pretty much different flavors for anyone that, any boats that they want. So.
Sure. And to be clear of the air, I have no dog in this fight. We just sell this stuff because we think it's good. But I think we're not affiliated with Raw. They probably don't really even know who we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not affiliated with Flavor Game, but they have good stuff.
Yeah.
And I know you're affiliated with them. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate it.
I just don't want people listening to be like, man, they're plugging the whole time.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Huh. Well, I guess now that you guys do have a kid, I'm going to switch back to a little personal life stuff.
Yeah.
We have something that we call that I'm calling the 1440 minutes in a day. What does your day look like? Your 1440, what does it look like now as opposed to prior to having a child? And then now that you're getting things, like, kind of settling in and you're getting ready for the next year, what's it going to look like, I guess?
Oh, Brett just loves his wife now even more. Honestly, before we had the kid, we were going through this, like you're trying to do this planning and stuff. I would say there's absolutely no planning that goes into it. You just naturally begin to start changing your life around. And I think right now, more than ever in the last 10 years that we have been together, it's really been about being a teammate, being always working together and making sure that we're communicating. Communication is a huge thing. So setting up our day to make sure that he gets everything done and that I also make sure that I'm able to get everything that I need to get done. So just kind of making, okay, what are our priorities for the day? How are we going to structure the day? And, we have really figured it out. Even though she just turned 6 months, we have figured it out. And we were just saying, he's had this break and, I just had a baby, which is a huge thing. So I feel like, I'm trying to get everything figured out for myself again, whether I'm going to compete again, what I want to do. But again, the main goal is to be just really fit and, because that's what we're going to do for the rest of our lives, basically. Yeah. So we were just saying, like, we're so excited to get back home. She's grown up a little bit, and just to be able to be like, hey, you're going to go work out and we're going to switch roles. And we both work from home. So, just taking advantage of the time when she's napping, taking advantage of the time that, and just being able to multitask with her. And truly, like, I got it. And, and Brett's there to support me when he needs to support me. As long as I get my time in the gym, I got it, because I think she also came at the right time in our lives. And I think that's a really big part of it. So it wasn't something that we were like, oh crap, like this is really going to throw us off. This was something that we really wanted. So it's prepared us for that next step. So basically the day is, it's pretty easy. We do the same thing every single day. The whole day revolves around training and eating and clients. And, and she's there to be a part of it all. And we have the time with her. And, when they're smaller, I mean, things are going to change as she gets older, as she becomes more active. So, but she comes to the gym. And she loves the gym, and we're going to make sure that we continue to do that, so that, that she continues to want to be a part of what we're doing, and, we're leading her kind of into that, because if I could look back into my own life, I would wish that I would have had the gym opportunities at a younger age, and I think I would have been even more successful in my career, but I didn't find that for so long in my life. So, it's nice that we can bring her into a gym, and we don't have a daycare, so she's definitely in a stroller while I'm training legs, and I'm like, oh, well, I want to get back to 8 plates on the leg press, and she's there, and she's watching, and she's just observing. So, of course, Brett doesn't take her to the gym with him, but, I can do that, and so we've really worked it out, but life has changed a lot, but I think it's changed for the better, because this is what we wanted, and we were preparing ourselves for this. So
That's cool.
Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, like all our family's up in Iowa. So what I don't think people realize is it's just us down there. We have no family, we don't have any really like close friends. It's a lot of work and us figuring it out. So that's what that first, 4 or 5 months has been, is figuring out schedules, because, you always have to have eyes on the baby. We can't just go drop them off at the parents, which, sometimes we're jealous of that, but sometimes it's like, hey, we're doing this the way we want to. So
Sure.
It's just, I know I've mentally had to step up, like, hey, you go do what you need to do, I'll take over. But she's been awesome, been an awesome mom, and we're raising a really, really healthy and smiley baby, so we can't be any happier about that. So, and to give a little context on that, because she was talking a little bit, it wasn't a surprise, but it was kind of a surprise, but we were ready for it. So, there's going to be people asking, like, how did she get pregnant, from a bodybuilder or whatever. But so she actually, and I'm just going to be honest, the plan was I was actually going to start January of this year, so 2023, was we were going to start, the process of, trying to get her pregnant, or at least, attempting. But we never even had to get to that point, because right at the beginning of my prep for those shows, the Romania and Spain shows that I won, or the Spain show that I won, she got pregnant in the first week of my prep. So that's why a lot of people don't realize, like, oh, bodybuilders can't get their significant other's pregnant, or females pregnant. It definitely can. We found out that. So, I wasn't worried about it. So I was like, we're gonna try here after the prep anyway. So I don't really care. And it was probably the first or second time I think we figured it out.
Okay, I have to say something. So, I was probably like 7-8 months pregnant. We were walking on the beach, and this old man literally just looks across the way at me and goes, "Did he do that? How?" we couldn't even respond back to him, because I was just so speechless. Like, he did that to you? I was like, yeah, he did, believe it or not. But he's like, bodybuilder? I was like, oh my God, it happens. But I think a lot of people have that misunderstanding as well.
There's also like a myth too that all bodybuilders have girls, right? But then you got my dude Mike over here, who has is it 8 month?
Yeah, 8-month-old boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's kind of a one-off, though. I think that myth's kind of accurate. No, it's probably like a 75-25%. Like,
That's
just
crazy.
look back. Like, just think of all the bodybuilders. Obviously there's some males in there, but like Ronnie Coleman, 0 boys, 8 girls. Like, what are the chances of that? You know what I mean? Like, literally think about that percentage. It has to be a
The Rock too.
1%
He's
chance.
got 3 girls.
Yeah, you can just go down the line. It's just like it's like, so there has to be something behind that, but no studies have ever shown that or anything. But I truly believe there's something there.
Yeah, I agree with it.
Well,
Lunsford's having a girl. Sean just had a girl.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the thing with it's a lot of it is just how the side effects, it affects certain people and it doesn't affect certain people. But unfortunately, as a bodybuilder, you get grouped into, oh, you can't get anybody pregnant.
Yeah.
When it's just like any other side effect experience. Some people lose their hair, some people don't.
Right.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Then you got me, who we couldn't get pregnant. So at one point in time, we were doing IVF to try and conceive. Well, I had a really low sperm count, so it's one reason why I came off. I was pretty open about it. I ran like an HCG, HMG, glutathione, a bunch of little protocols, and I got my sperm count up. Ended up having it frozen. That IVF cycle failed due to outside circumstances. But I think it's interesting in your case, and when I was coming up with this protocol, not that it's something I invented, I just kind of pulled from other people. But what I was realizing is there's a lot of bodybuilders that do get their wives or girlfriend pregnant while on cycle. But and this isn't, I mean, I'm not a medical professional. This is my own opinion. But what I came to find is the guys that got their girlfriend pregnant, it was when they were blasting. It was when they were running a fairly heavy cycle. It wasn't when they were just maintaining, just running low test, like 500 testosterone, 300 DECA, whatever. It's generally good. And what I found is there's a window that triggers sperm production when you blast. It triggers something for a few weeks or something like that.
Time frame, yeah.
Yeah, and so like I said, it's not founded in fact. It's just something in my own research. But it looks like when that happens, most of the guys will tell you, dude, I don't know how. I just blasted. I was deep in my cycle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there might be something to be said about that. I mean,
no, I don't think you should say that because now everyone's going to start blasting. Screw a post cycle. I'm just going to blast again.
maybe. So.
We don't know. Again, we are not we're professionals.
Right.
We're just trying. This is bro science right here.
It's absolutely
observation science.
Oh, one of the other things I would have said about this area is they have parent-guided gymnastics at 20 months. There's programs around. We already got Isaiah looking at him, and he's 8 months right now. So that's something
Funny you
too.
say that because last night we were driving around. I'm like, "Where's all the gymnastics places?" And I googled every single one because I want to know, know, how advanced they are. If there's been any young girls that have come out and gone to the Olympics, like I'm on that because like that is a one staple that we are like very focused on and wanting for her. But
Blue Valley has a really good program.
Really, yeah. Back to the whole getting pregnant thing. I think also everyone. For us personally, I mean, you got to remember, I mean, I competed professionally for over 12 years and at a very high level. So it changed my clientele by a million because now I have women that are checking in every other week that their bellies are growing. And it's been really great for me. But more than less, what's been really nice is to show these other females that, hey, like you can compete professionally. You can be one of the best in the world and you can still do all of this stuff afterwards of wanting to have a family and having children.
Sure.
You just have to do it the right way. Sure. And I think it wasn't just about, oh my gosh, Brett got you pregnant. It was, hey, you got pregnant really fast. So, that was a really big thing to kind of, come out and share with people. And I mean, still even to this day, people are constantly asking like, hey, you should talk more about this. And, and just kind of like what you did. And the most important thing is making sure that you are doing everything the right way. And making sure that the female body is responding and you're always getting your hormones back. Because, I mean, I think it's a lot harder for females to fix a lot of their issues than it is for some men. It's like your sperm count is low. There's a higher chance that we can fix that. But with the female body, it's the reproductive system can really be tricky.
Right.
So.
And we're, just to be open about it, we're talking about enhanced competitors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we're not talking necessarily about the natural competitors. But it's pretty amazing how resilient the body is. I mean, my test levels were next to nothing. My sperm count was super low. With that protocol over a certain amount of time, like I got up and my testosterone got like 360s. My sperm count wasn't only good, it was very good. And so it's really, I think a lot of guys worry, like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to recover if I do run a heavy cycle. I mean, I was on testosterone for 20 years. I'm 40 years old. I'm older than everybody in this room, actually. But I was worried. And I didn't know because there's not a lot of science out there. Your primary care physician isn't going to know. They're not. That's just not what they're there for, right? And so I've been my own little guinea pig to a degree, but it's very cool and gives a little bit of hope to the guys that kind of put their eggs in that basket, like I'm going to be a competitor, I want to chase it. And then they get a little older and they're like, well, maybe I want to have a family. So for me, it was reassuring that I could recover. If anybody can, if I can pretty much, I can't say everybody because everybody's their own person. Everybody's body operates in their own way. But I think men for sure, if you run the right protocol, you take enough time, clean out your body, you can recover. And I do think you're right. I think females' bodies are more sensitive, but you're case in point that you have a healthy child. And so that's something that I think a lot of people worry about, ultimately. I think it's just a worry.
And then when you say sperm count, I will say that, we talk about that. The sperm count. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, my sperm count is low.
Well, what she's referenced is my luteinizing hormone. So I actually got so a day before she told me she was pregnant, I went and got blood work done just because I was, I like to and prep, and because I'm very smart about that. And the thing that stuck out to me was my luteinizing hormone was like 0.1, less than 0.1. And that's kind of a reference. That's not completely a reference to sperm count, but that's a good reference, right? And so I was like, I instantly almost started freaking out. I was like, am I ever going to, like am I ever going to be able to get pregnant down the road? Is my sperm count, is it destroyed? So I reached out to Matt. I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I might just back out of this prep now and start, he's like, no, you're good. Like, because he reassured me too. He's like, no, man, like most bodybuilders, that their LH or luteinizing hormone is actually 0.1 while they're on cycle or like on prep, or if they've been competing for a while. He's like, you can bounce out of that. And so I was like, okay, but then I was still worried. So she came home, I picked her up from the airport, and like I even like told her, I was like, yeah, I had a tough day yesterday. I got my, this is my blood work. Like, I'm really worried about the LH being so low, right? And she's like, oh, okay, and then like 20 minutes later, I opened up this little package, and it was oh, you're gonna be a father, and I was like, oh my god,
Nice.
So it's like, yeah, that's part of it. You stress yourself out, but like, through what they've been able to study today and figure out is there are protocols that you can get back to being, a naturally optimal human being.
And it takes only one swimmer.
It takes only one swimmer.
Well, especially with IVF.
Yeah,
They literally go in and they
that's crazy.
Yeah, they test them and see which ones are less prone to having any genetic defects. Like, you can choose the sex. Granted, the clinic I went to, they only let you choose the second child's sex. The doctor and I did not get along. I'm the only male in my family. I have 3 older sisters. I'm the last Karstetter. So I want a boy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'd love to have a girl as well.
Yeah.
But he and I were
But for sure wanted
button heads over that for sure. It's like, if I could structure my own family. Granted, there's going to be some people listening. It's like, you can't play God.
Yeah.
That's your own opinion.
Yeah.
This is mine. That's how I plan to operate. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I'll ever have kids, but getting back to the point is, I love the fact that I can if I want to.
Yeah.
And we're healthy.
See, that was my plan too. So like I said, like January 2020, we were going to try. And then if I was unsuccessful, I was going to do everything. And then I was like, and then even if you don't want to at the time, I'm going to do this process no matter what. And then I was going to freeze my sperm as well.
Yeah.
I decided that, and then and then I can go back into competing, and then down the road when you're ready, we can do that. But I knew I was going to do that no matter what. So it's a good little trump card to have in your back pocket.
Sure. Question for you. Did you get vaccinated?
No.
Me neither.
No.
No. I mean, I know there's a lot of stigma around that as well, but I like the joke that they said unvaccinated male sperm is going to be the new currency in the future.
Oh,
like that,
my.
you know
I
what I
never
mean?
heard that one yet.
Oh.
I mean, maybe not literally the new currency, but I'm not a supporter of it. I mean, my family, my folks have gotten like 3 vaccinations, boosters. They both got it multiple times, and my mom has like a heart arrhythmia now.
Here's the thing, and we're not gonna go way too much into this. We're not gonna turn this in because this could be a long conversation.
Sure.
But the thing is, like, look at the increases in the heart problem issues. When and a good example is, and people are going, well, that's a bad example. Like, look at LeBron's son, 18 years old, had went down on the court with a heart issue, and then you've been seeing it all over as these 18, 17-year-old kids in their prime are having heart defects, are having heart issues at this age. And it just doesn't make sense. And the only thing that's kind of pointing to that is that, right? So why would me, who has 100 pounds of muscle on me, of what my natural weight should be, I'm 270 pounds. Why would I want to take the risk of having a vaccine that could affect my heart when my heart is already working extremely overtime?
Right.
So like, I don't think many, and I mean, we talk about this in the bodybuilding community, especially all the top pros, like none of them get, because that's a death wish, right? That could be a death wish. I'm not going to drop dead because of a vaccine, but, because I'm training too hard and my heart can't take it. It's just, that's not how. It's not good for what we do. So it's just like, you shouldn't see much of that. And now it's all proven. It's all coming out. And we said that from the start, and we were idiots and, degenerates, and, we were the problem. Now it's funny because all those people are saying at the front, now they're like, oh yeah, you were pretty smart. Like I'm kind of regretting doing that,
Right.
You know how many times I've heard that now? And it's like, I didn't push it on you. I just told you what I was doing. And and that's why,
Sure.
I was in great health. I don't need it. Why would I affect anything from that?
Yeah. No, hindsight's 20/20, but I agree. People were offended if you weren't getting vaccinated. It's like, no thanks, man.
Well, can you say the same back? I mean, I think if they can talk openly about it, why they think it's great. I think you can also share your opinion why you think it's not, right?
Right.
They're offended. Well, maybe I'm offended that, you chose to do, so
Sure.
I think now it's become a more comfortable thing to talk about. Before, it definitely was not. I feel like we had to hide that. And especially we were living in Denver. It really affected our life because in Colorado, it was a big thing. We were like, let's go back to Iowa so we can get through this, Well, we were fine going to the gym, but I remember I volunteered at this event and we did this thing with children, and there was this big event afterwards to thank everyone for all the donations and stuff. And I basically couldn't go to the event because I didn't have a vaccine card. And I'm like, I spent all day with these children and shopping around for their less fortunate families so they can give something to their families on Christmas. But I can't go to this event that people are going to be drinking and partying. Because I don't have my vaccine card, but you let me spend all this time with children, that kind of crap. But
Did you guys happen to get sick or get the virus?
I think everyone did, right?
I never got it.
You never got it?
Dude,
Or do you not know you?
I went to Vegas. I flew to Vegas with Alexis. We went to a Raiders game. We stayed at a casino. My phone went off 3 times saying, "You've been exposed. You've been exposed." I don't know how it does that. Flew back. She got sick. I was next to her the entire time for days. She got sick. I never did.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I think everybody handles it differently, but
So we both did, but it was spaced out. Like when I had it, I was right next to her most of the time, and she didn't end up getting that time. But then later on, she did. I actually had a bad experience in that it was just bad timing because so what we did is we flew down to Dallas for a GASP event, and so they had us out for the week. So got off the plane, we went straight to the gym, and we were training. I felt a little short of breath, and just felt a little off. And then we were like, okay, let's go grab some food, grocery store before we go back to the hotel. So when we were going through the grocery store, I started getting chills, and that's when I knew because it was Texas hot, and I was big, and I'm like, okay, oh crap, and then so next morning I went and got tested, and I had it, but then then she had to get out of the room, so I had to stay in this hotel room by myself for 3 days before I could get a rental car and then drive back instead of flying back. She flew back.
Oh, wow.
I had to drive back from Dallas to Denver by myself. And I made that decision because I wasn't going to go get on the plane with COVID, But that was just a shitty experience because it happened down there, and I had to find my way back. But I never felt bad. It wasn't. It was just a 24-hour flu. After that, I was good. I had to miss Thanksgiving because it was right around Thanksgiving time, and I had to stay back in Denver. And then she just went back here to Iowa.
Do you guys think that prep drops your immune system down? And if so, do you do anything to bring it back up?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe towards the end at the extreme left deficit levels, where you're finally digging out those final 2 weeks where it's you're only at 4% body fat, and you're pushing the cardio really hard. There's gonna be a little breakdown in your immune system, right? But as long as if you're if you think about it, you should probably your diet wise, you should be one of the healthiest you are all year just from the food intake. You you're not adding any crap in there. It's gonna be all clean, quality. Fruits and vegetables, everything, meats and carbs, the good stuff to keep you primed. So I don't really think that. You've always felt the greatest on prep. I have too. I've never
for the most
sick.
part. I think it's right. It's towards the end when your body's just at a maximum stress. Times when I tried to sneak into a lower weight class when I probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's
when you take yourself so far, and that's not necessarily the food. Yeah. That's more the
just fatigue.
Cortisol levels, everything. Your body. Yeah, you're right. Fatigue.
Yeah.
So I would increase vitamin C here and there, but I don't know.
Right.
I was just curious because it's bodybuilding as a sport is one thing, but contest prep's a whole nother beast.
Yeah.
I don't think bodybuilding is that unhealthy. I think some guys can do some things that are stupid, run and trend year round at a ridiculous rate or dosage, whatever. But for the most part, the guys that are cognizant of where their hormone levels are, they get their blood work done. I'm a huge advocate of that. Michael and I talk about blood work all the time. I have a med spa also, and one of the things I love about that is that I can just get blood work and I can send my guys there, dude, go get this done.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important, but I do think prep is where bodybuilding gets dangerous. It's when you dehydrate, That's probably the main thing. Diuretics, insulin, stuff like that. I think overall it's not that dangerous a sport, but at least the way that I was approaching it at times, I think that's where it got dangerous for me. And I don't think it has to be that way.
Right.
I think it comes down to your strategy, but I was just curious about your opinion on it.
Yeah, it's definitely that last 2 weeks for anybody, and it just matters how hard, like you said, the strategy is those final 2 weeks to push it, and that's part of the reason why I went up into the open class, like it was, more so for me is I actually looked better as I continued to get bigger, but I didn't want to keep, trying to make a classic weight and hold myself back and, kill myself like that, or a 212 weight. It was like, I'm going to set myself up that I can be ready a couple weeks out and I don't have to worry about a weight cap. Right. So it's not, if I'm ready and I, the best I've ever looked 2 weeks out, I'm just going to stay at this weight and maintain and cruise right in instead of, oh crap, I have to lose another 10 pounds. Where am I going to find this from? And that's when people run into issues, because then the mental game starts getting into it, right? And so like, all right, how am I going to do this? Okay, well, if I take this, this, and this, then I'll make weight, right? And then, if I'm in the sauna for 2 hours, plus I'm taking a diuretic and stuff, and that's when the issues arrive.
Right.
Right, when you're just trying to, it's usually when you're trying to get that last couple pounds off of water or whatever, and you start doing extreme things, and that you don't have to do that. You end up making that decision, and that's on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I live and learn. I think that's always good, even at your level, to have a third person perspective at that point in time, because I know, at least for myself, you can be your hardest critic.
Yeah.
And if you think if you can go there, you should, and that's not always the case. Sometimes your body just let it go weight wise where it needs to be, and you go to that class. You don't have to try and force yourself down,
right,
which is a mistake I've made in the past. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm a huge bodybuilding fan, and I think that it can get a bad rap because some guys go so extreme on certain things. Whereas if you got the genetics for it, you shouldn't, and you took enough time to get in shape, you shouldn't have to get that crazy, in my opinion.
You should be ready, right? Yeah, it should be a year-round thing. A lot of the issues are people just let them, maybe let themselves go, or, get too heavy or fat in the off season. So that prep time is just, all right, I got 12 weeks just to lose this amount of body fat. And it shouldn't be structured that way. It should be structured that you're using food when you need it, maybe even bringing up body parts, right? You have a high days on your leg days or something like that, just to improve those, but you're still in a deficit every other day.
Right.
The issue is when people come into it and they're like, they're using a diet, they're using a diet prep just to, look good for photos or something like that, because they're slobs year round,
Right.
I mean, they're slobs 9 months out of the year. And so those preps are just, okay, I'm held accountable now and I have to do this. That's the mindset you can't have. You can't have that relationship with food. I hear her talk about this a lot, especially with females, is like, you got to work on your relationship with food. And that's what I would see is like, it's okay, yeah, I'm going to do a prep because I need to be skinny again. But then right after that, I'm just going to, put those 4 months that I just put in the work is just going to be out the window, because I'm going to go back into that habit. So, and, that's something you figure out with time. I even when I was starting out, I was a foodie and stuff like that, and we all had that experience of eating way too much after a show, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we saw guys that ate so much after a show one time that they got so swollen that they gave themselves black eyes. I saw a guy that had 2 black eyes 2 days after a show. I'm like, what the hell happened to you? It's like, oh, I ate too much. I gained, 40 pounds in 2 days. And what happens is your blood pressure goes through the roof, your inflammation goes through the roof. And you can actually cause yourself to get black eyes, and your blood vessels pop in your eyes because of all the food.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've seen it. And, what I mean? And then that's just, not, like I said, that's just a relationship thing. It's a mental thing. It's maybe even a little bit of a food addiction thing, probably. But it's, like I said, over time, you got to build that relationship. Like now, I have a relationship that I hate food. That's my relationship. But the thing is, like, I do, I get it down. I do what I need to, but I'm never driven. My goals are just solely, I'll eat whatever I need to eat to get to my goal of being, the top bodybuilder that I can be.
And Brett, how long have you been at this? Like, how long have you been at the lifting game?
Yeah, so good background on that. So actually, like I said, she was in this before I was. She's actually the one that got me into this. So I met her when I was 24. I was like 3 years removed from college. So when I played college football, and when I graduated, I was 165 pounds.
Right.
So I was a slot receiver, kick punt returner, very quick and shifty, And then when I got done with that, I was like, I don't want to run around anymore. And like, I'm not going to go to the pros. I was a good player, but I didn't have the size. Right. And I was like, I'm not going to go to the pros, and like, I'm not going to go play arena football and tear my ACL and have nobody pay for it. So I was like, I've always enjoyed lifting, so I'm gonna put some weight on, right? And I studied exercise science in college, so I knew anatomy, physiology, everything like that.
Right.
And so I wanted to start applying it. So I started, my own training. I was enjoying lifting. That's kind of when I met her. She came back from college, saw her in the gym a little bit, and that's when I was shooting my shot and stuff. But at that point, she was already a pro. So I was like, she walked into the gym, because she wasn't there before. I was like, the hell is that? Like, I've never seen anything like that, right? Like, never seen a female look like that before. Beautiful, muscular, like, very defined. And so that's kind of, we got me hooked on her. And so when we started dating, I know I've said this story many times, but you guys haven't heard it. So when we were dating, we were in that phase where it was like, you're still feeling each other out. We were probably 2-3 weeks in, and we were sitting there, and we were just watching a movie or something. And finally, she broke down. She's like, okay, I gotta ask you something. And I was like, what's wrong? Like, she's like, do you ever eat? And I go, yeah, I eat. And, I wake up. At that time I was working, I was a bartender and stuff. So I'd wake up at noon. I'm like, yeah, I eat at like noon, 5, and like before bed at 9 or whatever, what I mean? Like, I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She's like, no, you need to eat more than that. She's like, I have meals that are sitting out in the car right now, but I'm scared, or I'm like, embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to eat them in front of you because you never eat. And I was like, what? No, we can eat. Like, what do you mean? Like, how much should I be eating? She's like, she's the one that actually taught me like how to eat. So she's like, no, you need to eat like 5 times a day. I was like, what? Like, that's what I'm missing. So like, at that point I was only like 170, 175 when, we were first hanging out. And then honestly, that's what launched me off, because then I was like, okay, and she helped me build a meal plan and stuff. And, so I started eating 5 meals a day. Started at probably 4, and then 5, then worked up to 6. And so I went from like 175 to up to like 215, 220 over like the next year. And then that's when, what that led in, then she was competing. So we were doing all her things competing. She was, like I said, she won 5 pro shows. So we were going all over the nation. She was doing Arnold's, Olympias. And that's when I was really getting into it. Because rest in peace, John Meadows, we were really involved. He coached her. So I was behind the scenes with him. He would train me, separately from her. And so pretty much everything I learned was from John Meadows and just watching the internet. I used the internet. We used to watch Flex Lewis all the time. Him and Dallas McCarver, I would copy their workouts. I'd grab some from there. I'd grab some from here. I grabbed some from this guy online. But then it was all and then John Meadows was the staple. And so I built my own training style just from hanging out behind the scenes. No one knew who I was. They just knew me as Ivana's husband or boyfriend at the time, and just the guy that kind of tagged along, carried the bags, But without me knowing, I was building for something. I was just building, I just had my own bodybuilding journey. I didn't want to compete, right? Yeah. And so fast forward like 2 years, like I said, when I got up to like 215 and stuff, I had all these people because I was starting to show it, right? And all these people were like, hey, can you help me diet for my show, or can you coach me and stuff? And I was like, coach you? Like, I've never even dieted before, like, I don't know how to, get you ready for a show. So then that's when I decided, like, hey, Ivana, I want to do this one show. I want to do it one show. I want to do one prep and actually like diet down so I know the process, so I can, make a little extra money coaching others just locally right here in Des Moines, like help some people out. So I did it, and went into did the Omaha show that year. This was 2017. And ended up getting went to the Omaha show not knowing what to expect. I entered like true novice and all that stuff.
Which division?
Classic physique.
And that's where you turned pro as well, right?
So classic physique. I was 188 pounds that first show, and went there, and then shredded. And then right when I got done that night, the judges came back and were like, hey, you need to, because I won the overall and everything, and they're like, you need to go to junior nationals next weekend, because it was a weekend after in Chicago, and we weren't playing out. I was like, so I had to go back out. Went over to Ivana. I was like, hey, this one show turned into 2 shows. If we can go next weekend.
How'd that go?
And so we went, and so I went, and then that's when they were doing I don't know if they still do, but the top 2 went pro, right? And there's 35 guys in there, and so my second show ever. Within a week of each other, I got 3rd place. So I missed pro card by 1 spot that year. And so then I was hooked after that, right? And so I was like, all right, this is going to be something, So, and then fast forward, we came back to junior nationals a year later. So in 2018 came back. And then I won my class in the overall and went pro in classic. And so, that's our story. And then right after that, it was when we were like, hey, we got to, we're going to take this serious, and especially, me a little bit more so now, and, continue to build you up. She got all the way up to the top 6 in the world. But we got to get out of Des Moines, right? We got to get out, because no one knew who we were, because we were sitting here in Des Moines that didn't really have a scene yet.
Right.
And so that's when we were like, all right, At the time, she started working with Dylan Armbrust.
Okay.
Because he was a good coach of figure athletes. He does his specialty. So she started working with Dylan, and we were like, all right, let's go check out Denver and his gym. Like let's just go see it. And so we drove out there for like a week or 5 days. And that's where I met Adam Young.
Yep.
I started training with him, and we're like, dude, this is heaven. The garage doors are back in the open, the mountains are out there, the breeze is coming in. They have every piece of equipment that a bodybuilder likes. Just a bodybuilder haven. I was like, I didn't even know this place like this existed, right? And so literally, we went back home. We got online. We looked at apartments. We picked one, and we moved like a month later. We just packed up everything into a U-Haul and just drove out there. Didn't know what I was gonna do. Moral of the story, fun part of the story. I mean. Like I said, we didn't know no money or nothing. But what I did is I started working at the gym front desk from like 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. because that's all they had. I was like, hey, just give me something, And he's like, and I have to give so much the props to Dylan Armbrust because he took us in underneath his arms and he helped turn me into who I became. He's like he gave me opportunities like, hey, work from 5 to 8, meet these people, and that's what I was stressing at the beginning is I was that guy up front shaking everybody's hand, meeting people, and those people that I was meeting from at the start. They turned in my clients. Like, hey, like, oh, well, you're a pro, right? And like, yeah. Like, well, can you train me? So then I became a good personal trainer. I was training people all day. I left the front desk, became a trainer. We started making money. Then we started coaching people out there, build our team that still is going today, which is, and that gym exploded. And then with that, that atmosphere of me on that path. My training took off as well. And so then enter Martin. Martin came in. That's when he came in, and me and him just fucking blew up from there. And then worked our way into the open, and that's where I'm at now.
You put on over 100 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, it was something like that. Maybe
when you graduated?
45, 50. Oh,
yeah.
From
when you
college.
Graduated high school or college.
Yeah,
Yeah, right on. We don't have a whole lot of time because we got these guys on a seminar here right after. But, I did want to ask you about Martin. He had a run-in in Texas, right?
Yeah.
But he got all that sorted out, and he's back on track, right?
Yeah. So I mean, Martin's like our little brother. I mean, like he's been just trying to figure things out in his life, and that's what he's doing right now. And like, everything's good. He's down in Texas right now, but he's actually going to come out. He's going to not move, but he's just going to temporarily come out to Florida where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Because he's doing the Arnold. So he is doing the Arnold in March, at the beginning of March. And like I said, it's one of those things that him and I, for training partner wise, that's the best thing for both of us. It just, we're able to get something out of each other that you can't really get with other people. And we just know each other.
Sure.
Right? Like I said, when we met, we were both 210 pounds, like, new pros, or he wasn't even pro. Like I said, like just wanted to be bodybuilders, and we turned into, some guys that are going to be competing at the top spots at every show right now. You know what I mean? So, we have a good history, and so he's going to come out. He's in a good spot. He's in a good headspace now. And just, that's just part of life, man. People forget Martin's only 25 years old.
Right.
And so, I was like thinking, what the fuck, what was I doing when I was 21, 22, like he was? And I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I was making mistakes as well. So yeah, he's figured it out, and I'm really excited. It's going to be a really big year for him this next year because he's really rolling. He looks awesome. So I'm excited for him and really kind of setting up his future.
Nice. Yeah, no, same. I think he has some potential there for sure. And it sounds like he was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
So I'm glad everything's working out for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right on. Well, guys, we appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else we want to hash out before we get on? Michael is going to come.
Yeah, sometime next year.
Yeah.
Maybe around this time next year. Yeah. I got another about 10 to 15 stage weight to put on, and then I'll be ready.
Got a big frame.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
What are you? We're 312.
Yeah, it was
Clean up
312,
the diet
and
a
then
little bit.
get your blood work checked because sometimes you got to make dietary adjustments. Then I had to make the dietary adjustment, came down to like 306, and then about sitting around 308-ish.
Just
no big deal. Funny thing is, in college, we met at K-State, and at that time, he was probably 100 pounds less. And he shows up here, I'm like, who are you again? That's not the same person, but
it's a whole new band.
Yeah, no, road to pro for him for sure. So we trained together.
It's been good for you.
It's been great for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like I was kind of getting out of it a little bit, and I needed somebody to say, no, we're training.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I guess I don't have a choice. And it was fun to train with him. I was telling him the other day, it's like, this is a point in time which we'll never have again. It's cool the fact that we're able to link up and train together because in 10 years, we're not going to have the same physiques. He has more potential than I do. I'm 99% sure that I'm not going to compete anymore, but it's fun to train with him because that's our goal, is to turn him pro.
Yeah.
And guess what? Him competing, you're gonna feel like you're
100%.
the one on stage.
Yeah,
You're gonna
same.
be. I mean, you live through these people that you
Yeah.
support every single day. So yeah.
Right. No,
You're a great example of that. Is like, and then through that, you find that you're having more structure, right?
sure.
Yeah, because you have to be on point with your diet now too. You have to fuel your workouts with him. So like that's what I mean. Like you don't have to compete. So the people watching this, you don't have to compete. You can just enjoy this lifestyle. I think a lot of that, especially when I'm talking on these podcasts, like we might not be relating with people, but it's not. It's the process is 99% of it. I would have never been but I was never really prone. Like the stage isn't really what I'm like. Oh, I've always wanted to get on stage. No, it's the process, right?
Sure.
It's the process.
I'm the
of
same way.
getting
Some
there.
guys love being on stage.
Yeah.
Michael loves it.
Yeah.
Age is awesome.
Yeah. See, like, and I'm not that way either. And I think Branch Warren says it the best. He's like, I didn't become a bodybuilder. I'm a weight trainer that turned into a bodybuilder. He always says that. He's like, I fell in love with the process, and the stage is this like part of the end goal, right?
Yeah.
But that's not if that's the only thing you enjoy of it, you're not going to be a good bodybuilder.
Right.
You got to lock into the process, and the process then carries over to your business, your structure throughout the day. Your diet's on point, your timing's on point because you're always on routines, and then that spills over to, and it doesn't have to, like you said, a gym owner, or it could be anything. You're a businessman, you drive trucks, whatever it may be. As long as you have that base, that lifestyle, that process down, you're gonna be better father. You're gonna be better.
Sure.
At that too. So,
For sure. If you can be disciplined in one area,
yeah,
a much higher probability you're going to be disciplined in other areas of your life, with your faith, with your family, with businesses. So, yeah, and I know he loves more than just the stage as well. It's a lot more fun to train with each other and to push each other. For me, I think I'm the one that gets the benefit because I'm the underdog, so I'm chasing him all the time.
Yeah.
So I love it. It's been a good relationship so far. We get in here 6:30 in the morning and get after it, whereas I don't know if we'd be doing that if we were doing it solo. So. Right.
Well, if it was just you, you're not. I mean, you're looking over at that alarm clock. You're like, I'm good for the day. You know what I mean? There's going to be those days, but when there's this motherfucker waiting for you,
100%.
You better get your ass there.
Or if I'm in here training in solo, I'll be like, man, that piece of equipment, that needs to be tightened. Yeah. Or I need to go talk to this person.
Yeah.
Whereas with him, it's like, nah, man, it's my set.
Yeah.
I don't have time to go do that.
We can take a picture of it and keep on
That's
going.
what he tries. He's like, just take a picture of it. I do pull off occasionally, like, let's get some Loctite and put that bolt back. You know what I mean? But, yeah, it's been good. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
We're blessed to have you in here. Let's get this seminar going. I know there's some athletes out there waiting for us. So.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And your handles maybe, too.
Yeah. Actually, let me touch on this real quick. So we didn't get to this part, but I wanted to talk about a new product that I have coming out. I was going to tell you about this. I forgot to tell you last night. So I do sell these straps called butcher hooks. So those are just some simplified lifting straps. I gave them to these guys today.
You want to show them?
Yeah, there's some right there.
Hey, AJ, grab some out of that bag, will you?
But with that also, as I'm coming out with a new product called Butcher Balm.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a joint and muscle relief. Like you've heard of like Tiger Balm that you rub on. And so these are it right there. They're just very simplified.
There you go. But these ones are mine, so don't take them.
And so the next thing in the order, and I'm getting that finished right now, and they'll probably drop here right at the beginning of the year, is Butcher Balm. So it's just like a pharmaceutical grade, like icy hot. So what me and Martin used to always do is we put horse linen on our knees on leg days, just to numb them out.
Yeah, that's old school.
Blue stuff, isn't it?
It's like greenish blue.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would just do that just to numb out our knees. So finally, like over the years, I've been like, I want to make a product, and finally, I've been able to work with this guy that, he had some great ideas with it. And so it's that icy hot kind of feeling, that numbness feeling, but it also has BPE 157 and CB 500 in the lotion.
That's what's
so
up.
it's like one pump is exactly 500 milligrams of each, and it's a topical, so it just rubs into your muscles.
Dude, BPC 157 that's my staple. I talk about it all the time. That's the only way I can train with this dude.
Yeah.
Because I get such bad inflammation on my IT bands.
Yeah.
Like I can barely sit down.
So I'll send you a bottle. You'll love it. Just rub it on your legs for quads, and you won't feel that stuff.
Right on.
You know what I mean? So I'm really excited for that because it's like there's like one or two out there already, but I'm getting on it early because I think that's going to be huge in the industry moving forward, especially because like they're going to stop production of just like the injectable kind. They're going to stop.
No, I know this.
Yes,
the pharmacy has contacted us because I own Med Spa, Prime Recovery, and Wellness, and we got an email saying, "Hey, it's supposed to be the end of November was the last day you can get it."
Yeah.
So, I mean, what that does is it makes everybody go black market. But if
Yeah.
you can have it in a product where it's not
Yeah.
regulated the same way, it's even better.
Yeah.
Where can they get it?
Oh, so I'll have it. I'll be pushing it out on a website, my own website, and everything
Okay.
like that. Yeah, it hasn't dropped yet.
What's your website?
So right now it's just butcherhooks.com, but then you can just go there because what it's going to do is I'm going to have just a landing page that's going to be all in one. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll change that here.
And then your Instagram, your social
So
media.
yeah,
will
my
show all that
Instagram, you
stuff,
can
right?
find me at Brett_Wilkin. YouTube, which I'm pretty active there, especially on preps and stuff, is Brett the Butcher Wilkin. And yeah, that's pretty much just Instagram and YouTube is usually what I use. And then Ivana.
Yep. And it's just at Ivana Ivusic at Instagram. Yep.
Are you guys still taking clients?
Yes,
Actively.
we are definitely, we're both still taking clients, and the best way to get into contact with us is to send an email to teamconquerculture@gmail.com. That is the best way for us right now.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and I want to say just a quick shout out to Better Bodies and Gasp, two companies that we have been with for a long time now, and one of the best companies that we've been honored to be endorsed and sponsored athletes with. So big shout out to them. They're a great company.
Right on. All right, guys, thank you.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys.